After a slow start, Africa has secured hundreds of millions of coronavirus vaccine doses, but leaders accuse rich countries of hoarding supplies. This week, Mauritius joined Seychelles as the first African countries to start inoculations. The continent was spared the brunt of infections initially, but the infection rate has jumped in a new wave. There are now more than 3.5 million known cases on the continent, though experts warn the actual numbers are higher. Meanwhile, during the virtual 2021 World Economic Forum this week, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa lashed out against vaccine nationalism, accusing wealthier nations of hoarding doses to the detriment of poorer countries.
Rich countries in the world are holding on to these vaccines, and we are saying release the excess vaccines that you've ordered and hoarded. There is just no need for a country which perhaps has about 40 million people goes and acquires 120 million doses or even 160 million. And yet the world needs access to those vaccines.
The World Health Organization says that a third of Africa's population could be vaccinated this year. This falls short of a target of around 60% needed for herd immunity, when the virus will be less at risk of spreading.
Realistically, we could expect around another 10, 15 or 20%, 10 to 15% that could be covered. So globally, reaching 30, 35% could be a realistic assumption by the end of 2021.
South Africa has set up temporary morgues in shipping containers because it's running out of space. Bodies are piling up as the continent's worst-hit nation passed 40,000 deaths. The country is battling a virulent coronavirus strain that could be resistant to some vaccines.
So far, we have distributed 22 of these containers across the country to various areas where we think we might have to bolster our mortuary facilities.
In a Nigerian hospital, doctors work around the clock as beds fill with COVID patients.
Some of us here, we don't even sleep at night because we have calls that we have to go and attend to. Some of us don't leave, we stay in the hospital 2-3 days, some 5 days.
Nigeria has diagnosed almost 130,000 infections, but many cases go undetected since people with symptoms assume they have malaria.
Anybody that has any kind of symptom should come out, talk. There's nothing wrong about talking. You don't talk, you just go, 6 feet deep.
Authorities unveiled new ultra-cold chain vaccine storage equipment last week. The country bought the machines for the arrival of 100,000 doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. According to the UN, in under 2 months, more than 200,000 Central Africans have fled rebel attacks. Tens of thousands crossed the Mbomu River to neighbouring Democratic Republic of the Congo. Residents left behind their lives and possessions when fighters attacked the city of Bangosu on the 3rd of January.
I ran only with my children. I took my children and my little sisters, and I ran away. I got on the dugout and I came here.
Around 90,000 people have fled to the DRC, according to official figures. Almost a third are in this refugee camp.
Here, given the huge logistical constraints, it is very difficult to get humanitarian assistance into this area, while we know that the needs of the refugees we have seen are enormous.
The country's 6 most powerful armed groups control 2/3 of the Central African Republic's territory in an 8-year conflict. They joined forces in December, calling themselves the Coalition of Patriots for Change. The coalition want to overturn President Faustin Archange Touadéra, who was re-elected in elections in December. A UN force of 12,000 troops, as well as Rwandan soldiers and Russian paramilitaries, are helping the government withstand the assault. Ghana buried longtime President Jerry Rawlings in a state funeral with military honours on Wednesday. Rawlings, a former Air Force pilot, was given a Guard of Honour at Independence Square, a symbol of Ghana's victory over colonial Britain in the nation's capital, Accra. The 73-year-old held power for 2 decades, first as military ruler and later as elected president.
6 April 1994 was when our life was turned upside down. During the 3 months of the genocide, we worked tirelessly to make people aware of what was going on in Rwanda. Almost all my wife's Dafrosa's family were exterminated. All those who lived in the country, especially on her mother's side, there's no one left. Our work consists of gathering witness accounts from people who escaped and from killers. When we hear that there's someone in France who is suspected of having participated in the Tutsi genocide, we're going to meet someone who apparently might have participated in the genocide. I wouldn't say there's a certain apprehension, but it's not always easy to listen to.
I was among the killers. I helped them track down the Tutsis. They were terrified by our cries and came out of their hiding place. When we found them, they were killed on the spot.
I absolutely wanted to go and see the survivors of Bizazero again. I wanted to tell them the trial is coming. Be confident, we're going to fight to hold the accused accountable.
Today I have no wife, no children, no grandchildren. None of them are alive. This is why the genocide perpetrators must be hunted down wherever they are and punished.
The greatest disappointment since we have been fighting for the honor and memory of the families of the victims and survivors is the slow pace of justice.
I think it's like Rwanda's Nuremberg trials in Paris. The survivors who have lived through these horrors, who come to work through their grief, their inner sorrow, in front of someone who denies it. We know that's how it will go.
There can be no forgiveness or true reconciliation without justice. I believe that the victims who are no longer there are still waiting for justice.